Is promised to stop the influx of people from certain countries in the Middle East, and we're learning about this now. So good morning, everybody. It's been a packed week so far, and off we go running yet again. I'm Bill Hemmer, and welcome here. Good morning, Shannon.
Good to see you. I'm Shannon Bream in for Martha McCallum today. Mr. Trump expected to temporarily stop the issuing of visas to people from countries considered hotbeds of terrorism. And part of this plan includes establishing safe zones in Syria. Here's the president.
It's countries that have tremendous terror, and it's countries that people are going to come in and cause us tremendous problems. Our country has enough problems without allowing people to come in who, in many cases or in some cases, are looking to do tremendous destruction.
Which
you look at
countries are
what's
we talking
happened.
about?
They have a whole list. You'll be very thrilled. You're looking at people that come in many cases, in some cases, with evil intentions. I don't want that.
Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is live at the White House. All right, John, what do we know about any potential executive action today?
We do know, Shannon, that the president will be signing an executive order at 4:30 this afternoon. I'm told by sources here at the White House that that is likely to be an executive order launching an investigation into the alleged voter fraud that the president was talking about earlier this week. Some big actions are going to come tomorrow at the same time that UK Prime Minister Theresa May is here. First of all, it's the executive order on immigration from countries that are hotbeds of terrorism. Let's put some bullet points up on the screen here so that from countries like Iraq, Iran, Syria, Somalia, Sudan, Libya, and Yemen. Even if a person has a visa to come into the United States from one of those countries now, they will not be allowed to enter. In addition, it would create a 120-day moratorium on admitting all refugees from those countries to the United States, an indefinite ban on refugees from Syria. It would, in the long run, reduce refugee admissions by 50%. It's currently 100,000, so that would knock it down to 50,000, and implement a process of extreme vetting. You mentioned the safe zones. That would be a part of the indefinite ban on refugees from Syria. President Trump wants to give them a safe home in Syria instead of coming to the United States. Now, another executive order that could be very, very controversial coming tomorrow. It's titled, quote, Ending Unconstitutional Executive Amnesty. What is executive amnesty, you ask? President Obama signed a couple of controversial bills when he was president, one of them called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA. That is the big one that people have been talking about for a long time now. That is the Dreamers that President Obama highlighted during his presidency. Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. We don't know exactly yet what the executive order will say, but he will address that, it looks like, tomorrow, Shannon.
All right, John, and today, what can we expect from the president? He's heading up to the GOP retreat in Philly.
Yeah, going up there in just a little while. I think he's leaving about 20 minutes after 10 this morning. Of course, the GOP retreat this morning up there in Philadelphia is all about how to repeal and replace Obamacare, how to do it almost simultaneously as the president has asked for, what the new Obamacare plan will look like. He'll be giving a speech at noon today. He's expected to highlight immigration, trade, as well as his legislative agenda. Obviously, he'll be talking about Obamacare as well. And he'll also be talking about law enforcement and taking crime seriously in this country again, as White House sources have told me today. And then he'll be back here at the White House for a meeting and again signing that executive order, likely to be launching an investigation into alleged voter fraud. So another big day here at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and into Pennsylvania as well today.
Yeah, keeping you very busy. John Roberts at the White House. Thank you.
We're trying to track all of it, too. Scott Brown right now, former Massachusetts Senator and a Fox News contributor back home there in New Hampshire. Senator, good morning to you, and thank you for your time today, sir.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
A lot to watch here now. Just reflect on what John Roberts is reporting. It'll become official later today. What do you think is significant about that, sir?
Well, first of all, you've had a situation for the past 8 years that there's been a certain comfort level between the media and the former administration where they would let a lot of these types of things slide and allow the president to move forward with his previous executive orders that basically circumvented Congress and I think, quite frankly, circumvented the Constitution in many instances. You have a situation now where the new president is doing exactly what he told the voters he was going to do. And my gosh, isn't that refreshing? Somebody's actually an elected official is actually doing their job, doing what they said they were going to do. And I think it's appropriate. You have people coming in from other countries that are in war-torn areas. Some of them obviously need help, and we are a very philanthropic country, Bill, but others are here not to buy houses with white picket fences, but here to kill us and change our way of life. So we need to slow things down, get a process in place that includes extreme vetting, gets all the law enforcement agencies on board, and figure it out.
Immigration's a big issue. You can talk about refugees in the Middle East. You can talk about the wall along the border with Mexico. Here is the Mexican president who, at the moment, has plans to come to Washington next week. There are rumors that that trip may not happen, so we'll wait to see whether that's the case. But this is what he said about the wall and who pays for it.
Lamento y repruebo.
Mexico does not believe in walls. I have said time and time again, Mexico will not pay for any wall.
So President Trump has said eventually Mexico will. But this is a wall that could cost between $8 to $14 billion. Forget about Mexico for a moment. How do you get that through a Republican-led Congress?
Well, obviously, there are monies presently in the system that can be used. There are efficiencies that can be used, and we actually give Mexico quite a bit of foreign aid. We can give them a little less. We also charge fees for people coming over the border from Mexico. We can increase those fees. So there's a whole host of things. It doesn't need to be paid for by tomorrow. We can certainly lay out a proper financing plan to make sure that the taxpayers, if they in fact front the money, will ultimately get it back. So I'm more concerned about the fact that Mexico doesn't think that we deserve to secure our country. If I'm not mistaken, Bill, they have a wall on their southern border, and they don't talk about it. So we have an opportunity to do what the president said he was going to do, which is secure the wall. And General Kelly, the best expert on that, because he was the head of Southcom, knows that there are terrorist and criminal elements coming through that porous southern border that are not only bringing crime and other problems, but bringing drugs, which is rampant up here in New Hampshire and Vermont and throughout our country where you have young people dying. So if we can stop one person, that's worth it.
That was a big part of the campaign. Just want to move to one more story here. Politico headline, Democrats launch scorched earth strategy against Trump. And the governor of Washington State, Jay Inslee, is quoted as saying they were entitled to a grace period and they blew it, referring to last weekend. It's been worse than I could have imagined the first few days. There is a resistance from the left that shows no quits. How does a President Trump bridge this divide, or does he, Senator?
Well, he bridges it by actually doing the things that he said he was going to do, repatriating that offshore money, streamlining regulations, lowering corporate tax rates, dealing with our border and immigration problems. That way, I think that we will have increased economic opportunities. As you're seeing in the stock market, that's reflective. That's a sign, one sign. Obviously, corporate profits need to move forward in that regard. But listen, the left, the only thing they have, Bill, in the House and Senate right now are press conferences. Thanks to Harry Reid, he changed the rules. So, unfortunately, they don't have much power to stop a lot of the cabinet secretaries, nominees, judges, federal judges, except the Supreme Court. So you can have scorched earth all you want, and you can have people protesting and complaining all you want, but he is the president of everybody, whether you like it or not. And if you don't like it, well, people said they want to leave. Well, see you later.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let him do his job.
We will see him meet with Republican leaders later today as well. We'll talk about that in a moment. Senator, thank you for your time. Scott Brown reacting to everything that's going on. Thank you, sir. We'll talk again. Shannon, what's next?
And there is plenty. President Trump leaving D.C. for the first time as president, heading to Philadelphia, where at the Joint Republican Issues Conference. Vice President Mike Pence will also speak this afternoon at the GOP retreat. And tonight, in a cable news exclusive, the president sits down with Sean Hannity at 10 p.m. Eastern right here on Fox News.
You need a flow chart to follow all this, but so far this week you have 4 executive orders signed by President Trump, and you have 8 memorandums, which are similar to executive order, one could argue.
They mean take action.
So that's 12, okay, and this is just Thursday. So stand by. We'll try and keep it all straight for you at home, because my mind gets spinning.
Listen,
what about yours?
He made a lot of promises, and people are looking for him to deliver, and he's out of the chute running.
All right, so more coming up on that. 10 minutes past the hour. President Trump again saying he would be willing to bring back waterboarding.
When ISIS is doing things that nobody has ever heard of since medieval times, would I feel strongly about waterboarding? As far as I'm concerned, we have to fight fire with fire.
So he also says he'll rely on his national security team to make that call. So does torture work? Should we use it? We'll talk to the architect of the enhanced interrogation program used by the CIA formerly. That's coming up in a moment.
Plus, then candidate Donald Trump supporters were known for chants of lock her up. So will the investigations into Hillary Clinton go away or continue? House Oversight Chairman Jason Chaffetz joins us to discuss that live.
Also, this will be a showdown. It's looming between the sanctuary cities in America and President Trump. Mayors from some of those towns vowing to defy President Trump's order on illegal immigration. Our panel debates that today in a moment.
Should places in this country that ignore the laws of this country when it comes to immigration receive federal money into their communities? No. And the answer to me is no.
British Prime Minister Theresa May visiting the U.S. today, where she will be meeting with congressional Republicans at a GOP retreat in Philadelphia. Then tomorrow, she heads to our nation's capital, where she's going to be the first foreign leader to meet with President Trump at the White House. May says she looks forward to a no-holds-barred conversation.
I am not afraid to speak frankly to a President of the United States. I am able to do that because we have that special relationship, a special relationship that he would never have with the United States.
May also says the U.S. and Britain can help lead the world again. I love watching Parliament over there. I love the huzzas and the crowd noise that you get there.
Yeah. She'll be at the White House tomorrow. She's going to meet Republican leaders today in Pennsylvania. We'll talk about that in a moment. But this meeting tomorrow is going to be very significant, too. There's a reason why President Trump singled out the UK leader. So that's tomorrow. In the meantime, more from last night right now. And ABC News.
Do you think America is done hearing about investigations into Hillary Clinton?
I just don't know. I mean, I hope so. And from my standpoint, we want to move on to the future. So I hope so. I don't know what the status of that is. I know it's a lot of very serious stuff, but I certainly hope so.
So President Trump saying there on ABC that he hopes the investigations of his former rival are now over. Jason Chaffetz has been doing a lot of the investigating. He's live from the Republican retreat now in Philadelphia. And, sir, thank you for your time and coming back here on America's Newsroom. Answer that question. Is the probe over of Hillary Clinton?
Well, we never specifically were probing just Hillary Clinton, but we are looking at the mess that she created at the State Department. I would remind people that the State Department itself still has an open investigation. One of the things we need help from the Trump administration is to get all the documents that we need in order to come to this conclusion. State Department, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the Veterans Administration, the IRS. These are all big major agencies where we do have investigations open. They have been slow walking us, and if the bureaucracy thinks that they're just going to kind of get away with it by running out the clock and a change in administration, they've got another thing coming from at least the House of Representatives. So we can accelerate this process by getting an administration to give us the documents.
The probe is not over then, or probes as you describe them then.
Yeah. Yeah, look, it's about justice. It's not about any one particular person. The House has a lot of equities in this that we want to see, and that's what this committee has done since 1814, and I'm not going to let up on the pedal. It didn't start because of a political election, and it's not going to end because of a political election.
Last week on Inauguration Day, you put out a picture on Instagram, and it was a picture of you shaking hands with Mrs. Clinton, and the caption read the following: "So please, she is not the president. I thanked her for her service and wished her luck. The investigation continues." So there's the answer, right?
Yeah, exactly. I give her huge credit for showing up at somewhere I'm sure it was very difficult to be. I did thank her for her service. I did wish her the best of luck, but that doesn't mean the investigation's over just because Donald J. Trump was sworn in as the President of the United States. That's just not the way it works. Was that interaction as fast as it was described in that caption, or was more said, Congressman? No, it was... it was all of 8 or 10 seconds or so, and she was very gracious. Like I said, I give her great credit for that. But The investigation continues. There are still a lot of unanswered questions. The quid pro quo, the hiding of documents at the State Department that showed up in the 302, the FBI interviews. We don't have literally tens of thousands of documents that we still need, and how is it the classified information got to a non-secure setting? We started this because the Inspector General said that there was a problem, and that still has not been resolved.
Let's move to today right now. What is on your mind? What do you want to hear from President Trump today? What's today all about, sir?
Well, we have a chance here with unified government. We got to tackle big issues: tax reform, Obamacare, the immigration issues, national security. We have Theresa May, the Prime Minister, coming in, one of our greatest allies, the British. We do have a special relationship to, so it's a lot for us to consume, but we have got to actually pass legislation to make a difference for the American taxpayers. They want a more efficient, effective government. That's what we need to deliver on, and that's what we've got to be unified in getting done.
House
over
Speaker
the finish line.
Paul Ryan said repeal Obamacare perhaps in March, and he said a revamp of the tax code perhaps by the end of summer. Does that schedule sound right to you?
Yeah, it's an ambitious schedule. The Speaker laid out a Gantt chart showing the timing. The House can move much swifter than the Senate can. They've got a lot of arcane rules that slow them down. They're also going to be dealing with the Supreme Court nominee and a host of other people that need Senate confirmation. So we have a very aggressive schedule. We need to be on the same page because we're going to walk, chew gum, and do some other things all at the same time.
Okay, Jason Chaffetz, thank you for your time. President Trump is there today, a bit later, and Theresa May, as you mentioned, there as well. Thank you, sir. We'll look for headlines from Philly. Shannon.
Thank you.
Well, the president is promising to step in if Chicago cannot get a handle on crime.
Chicago is a great city, can be a great city. It can't be a great city if people are shot walking down the street for a loaf of bread.
Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel responding to the president's threats to send in the feds. We're going to talk about it with the former superintendent of the Chicago Police Department.
Also, the world remembering a television icon, Mary Tyler Moore's famous co-stars, honoring her legendary career in their own words. For the better, and indeed they did. Mary Tyler Moore has left us at the age of 80. That show was on in the Hemmer house every single week.
Yeah,
Wow,
and there's nothing like that now on television, so it was good stuff. And we'll miss it and miss her.
Wow. Our best.
I want them to fix the problem. You can't have thousands of people being shot in a city, in a country that I happen to be president of. I say you have to smarten up and you have to toughen up because you can't let that happen. That's a war zone.
This is a warning.
I want them to straighten out the problem. It's a big problem.
As deadly violence continues to plague Chicago, President Trump putting Mayor Rahm Emanuel on notice, basically telling him to fix the crime problem or else expect federal intervention. Here's the mayor's response.
I would welcome, always have, welcome federal participation in working with local law enforcement to dealing with guns and gangs.
Gary McCarthy is Chicago's former police superintendent, now the CEO at GFM Strategies. Good to see you today.
Good morning, Shannon.
Okay, so we have this interesting juxtaposition there in that Mayor Rahm Emanuel says they need more money. They need it for policing, for resources. Others have said for schools, to fight poverty. I mean, there are big problems in Chicago. You know them probably better than most. But at the same time, he says, oh, and we're going to still be a sanctuary city and we want all that money too.
There's big problems here, obviously. And I don't like being between the mayor and the president at this point, but I think we don't need resources because we have federal resources. We got to 50-year lows in the murder rate here in 2013 and 2014 using the resources that we still have here in Chicago, working with the ATF, the FBI, the DEA, and so on, right down the line. What we need is sane policy. And if I could ask one thing from the federal government right now, I would suggest that somebody withdraws the DOJ report that was just issued. It's deeply flawed. And scrutinize it, dissect it, because what's going to happen is a consent decree signed off on by the city of Chicago is going to further embolden criminals and handcuff the police at the same time, which has been going on in this country for a couple of years.
Yeah, and so people know what you're talking about. I mean, there was a finding by the Justice Department that the Chicago police had engaged in all kinds of unconstitutional behavior.